Happy Wednesday during Lent. I must begin by saying I kind of enjoy doing this. It's an easy thing for me to do. I like having this conversation with you. I appreciate your comments. And in particular, I don't know if I use the word enjoy, but I am thankful that I can talk to you about my concern about the institution known as church. It's the big talk, certainly in our denomination, as congregations struggle to go forward in their ministry. Certainly, we don't know, as I've said and many have said, what it all means to spend 2 years in COVID and with very limited congregational participation or activity, and what that's all going to mean when people go through this period and maybe reevaluate their lives, especially since it's been so disrupted. And of course, now at the end of this all, to continue to hear about wars and Ukraine and all the uncertainty of this life, to again remember that Christ called us into the faith. Christ came into this world as a fulfillment of God's promise to really care for his people and really help them understand God's love for us all. And at the end of his time on earth, he called his disciples together and said, you go out there into the world, because you don't just keep this faith to yourself. I mean, if that would have happened after the resurrection, we would not be here in terms of, at least within a faith community known as Christian. And so our Lord understood that the establishment of a parish, brothers and sisters in Christ, was a very important way for us to go forward, to receive continued reminders of God's love for us, to be surrounded by the sacraments in support of our ministry, and to continue to share God's love with the world that is different from the world. We are called to be different from the world. And so I've gone through a number of different things during our time together. We'll continue to do it for the next couple of weeks as well, of course. And today I want to talk about a part of the church's ministry that is very dear to my heart. And it is all the more confusing for us, because we at First Lutheran Church of the Reformation, as with many of, if not all of my neighbors, are very concerned about youth ministry. As many of you know who are active here at First, we don't have many kids at all. And especially during the pandemic, we don't even know what that effect was. We have a need to continue to teach and share and love the young people. I myself have had a hard time not really being here that much. I've been supported and loved, and it's been great. But, I as I often tell you, I got a call to ministry in the midst of a camp experience with kids. My entire ministry, I have been surrounded with kids. I've had to teach kids in confirmation, and I've loved it. I've done children's sermons as long as I can remember. And we know that the ministry to our young people is so fulfilling, really. Reminds us that life is a gift and youth is a gift, and especially when we get older. Part of it, I've had a little more difficult time hanging out with kids as I get older, because, I'm kind of far removed from that period in my life. But just because of the way churches are organized, I have been always thrust into teaching, junior high in particular. And so I've been able to keep some connection there, and I still have on Facebook many kids that now are adults, and I've tried to maintain a distant but still real relationship with them. Youth ministry, younger ministry is so important to the church, and we certainly need to figure out ways to do it here at First Lutheran Church and never give up on it, for goodness sakes. Because to be raised in a church is such a gift. Some of you might remember several months ago, last summer, I believe, we had the opportunity to lift up the memory of Phyllis Davidson. Now, Phyllis, as you might know, was, of course, raised in this parish. She married a preacher, Roger. Off they went to different places. And as I shared with you before, my father was the pastor of Emmanuel and Holden in the 50s. In 1959, we left, and the pastor that came was Roger Davidson. 2 summers we came back from the Midwest so my dad could get training in clinical pastoral education. I went to church at Emmanuel Holden when Roger was the pastor and Phyllis was the pastor's wife. And her 4 young daughters, who were much younger than me, didn't have much of a relationship, certainly back then. I was 10 and 14. But anyway, and then, of course, when I came out here, your parish supported the new congregation starting in Tolland, to which I was the pastor developer. And Bill Moldwin, as I've often also shared, was my mentor since the beginning of my ministry back in Michigan. And of course, after Roger had died, tragically, Phyllis had been the office manager here, and I got to know Phyllis as a adult, and it was great. Well, anyway, we had this memorial service. Her daughters were kind of surprised that I was the pastor here. They didn't quite remember me, but the connection was meaningful to them, which was always good when you do these things. And so we're going through the service, and I'm sharing this story about me and Phyllis and all that stuff. And at the end, I asked for anybody who might want to say a few things. Well, up to the mic came Elaine McNutt, who is a longtime member of Emmanuel Holden and knew the Davidsons and Phyllis in particular very well. Well, she was also my 3rd grade Sunday school teacher. Didn't know she was coming, didn't even necessarily recognize her when she came up to the microphone, and she turned around and she said, "Hello, Joey. Hello, Joey." And I was reminded of one of the powers of being connected as a young person to parish ministry and a parish of brothers and sisters, that it gives you that opportunity, not just to be learning about Jesus and the call to love, but you get to know people from all ages who also care for you as a kid, care for you, love you. And we need more love in this world. So the fact that we are to try to think about ways to reach out to grow a parish in all different forms, no matter what age, but in particular today in youth ministry is so important. Now, I also know and need to say that I've heard, of course, that this parish has tried many things to do this. Leslie, who is here for many years, doing this work, certainly had done many things. Marianne, of course, as well, and Holly and all, they've worked in youth. I'm sure I'm leaving out names. Polar Express, I hear about all the time. And all these activities and times when they used to have youth directors here and all that kind of stuff. Youth ministry is a cool thing. Our connection to Camp Calumet, which a lot of us also share, and people have gone up there, is always been going on. And we need to figure out, as we go forward, new ways to reach out. In that regard, we are in the process of planning a vacation Bible school at First Lutheran Church of the Reformation. Now, the only way it works, when I reach out to our conference dean, Pastor Stephanie Pope, who was the originator of this plan, was that they were starting to develop a conference vacation Bible school program in which they're going to get an administrator and a counselor, and are going to have 3 sites if it goes forward. One in Bristol, hosted by St. Andrew, with Gloria Day and Zion and possibly even Grace in Plainville. They're going to work together. They're going to reach out to their community. They're going to try to pull in children who have, of course, been through, like I said, this 2-year period of drastic. I couldn't imagine being a kid going through this time. And then Southington, Zion and Southington, Pastor Jeff Stalley, who's just been there now for a couple of years, he couldn't even have an installation until recently because of COVID, but now 2 years later, he's officially installed. But they've been having good vacation Bible school through, and they're going to be the second host. Well, we want to be the third host. And we're not going to do it by ourselves. In fact, Prince of Peace in Kensington is going to join us. Pastor Joe McCary, you might have met if you were here for Rita Lundine's funeral. He's been the pastor there for 4 years now, and he also does pastoral care for our brothers and sisters at Our Saviors in Newington. His wife Katie is also going to join us. I just finished, and it's not official yet, but talking to our brothers and sisters at Our Saviors in Newington, and they seem very interested in joining us as well. So there'll be 3 congregations, all of which are also challenged with the number of young people, but it's also going to be reaching out to the community. Mary Ann and Holly are going to do that. They've done that at Polar Express. There are other kids that need to be reminded of the vacation Bible school experience and all that goes with it. It could actually be something great. When I first heard about it, I didn't know if I was going to necessarily be here for it because, the call process is going on and who knows how long that takes. It looks like we could certainly, I certainly probably will be here through the summer. And they've already tentatively scheduled us for evenings the first week of August. What does that mean? That means if you are interested in being a part of it, maybe doing some teaching, maybe helping out with meals, maybe doing something, you'll soon be hearing about it. If you have kids of your own and you really will get more information in terms of the grades and all that kind of stuff, but if you're a teenager, you can help out, right? That's what I did when I was young, I guess, and foolish. But, so there's all these opportunities for this to be a good thing. Our Synod has really given a $3,000 grant to help this because we're going to have some expenses, especially with an administrator and a counselor. And we will be looked to for some support, which we have resources to do so. But it's still not put together. But I thought in the midst of Lent, as we go through this time and we ask these questions, that I'd at least like to tell you some ideas that are coming forward. It is good that we can gather in this way. And as always, as I close out this time together, I want you to know that gathering on Sunday morning always is an opportunity that you should take advantage of. We are somewhat feeling that we can be more comfortable gathering in who knows these days, but maybe. I still have to be careful, of course, with my dear wife, Carolyn, as she goes through her cancer treatment, but we are still doing some little more comfortable time together. And certainly, brothers and sisters, come to church. I could add to that, of course, on this particular Wednesday, as we gather this Sunday at 9 o'clock, members of First Lutheran Church of the Reformation. There's a congregational meeting that we would really love you to be there for. It's just elections and hearing about what's going on.